Don't forget to hit subscribe. Cases like this don't just inform, they expose the shadows most people never see. The storm hit Chicago before dawn, dropping a frozen silence over the industrial district near South Deering. Streetlights flickered through sheets of ice as an unmarked Homeland Security vehicle rolled past dormant factories and abandoned freight warehouses. The team inside moved without chatter, each agent's breath tight with the kind of tension that comes only when an operation has reached the point of no return. The briefing had warned them. This raid might uncover one of the most sophisticated cartel tunnel systems ever discovered on U.S. soil. Weeks of surveillance, forensic tracking, and a cross-agency criminal investigation had converged on a single, unremarkable facility that seemed to operate as a recycling center. But the evidence didn't match the paperwork. Financial logs didn't line up. Delivery trucks came in half-empty and left fully loaded. Heat signatures beneath the concrete floor suggested movement where no machinery was listed. It had the hallmarks of an underground network designed for smuggling, distribution, and rapid escape. When the convoy stopped, ice cracked under their boots. The air was sharp enough to sting. Across the lot, federal agents formed a silent perimeter. A second unit swept the alley, scanning for motion sensors, improvised surveillance, or hidden lookout posts. The tension in the air carried that familiar weight. Something was waiting to be uncovered. The lead investigator, Special Agent Marcus Hale, stepped forward. He was known for tracking long-haul criminal networks and for building cases brick by brick until no defense could stand. This operation had consumed his team for months. Intercepted calls, smuggled ledgers, encrypted messages, and countless hours of analyzing drone footage and police evidence. Every fragment pointed back to this warehouse. Inside, the building smelled faintly of chemicals and cold metal. Pale blue emergency lights cast long shadows across the concrete floor. It looked empty, too empty. Hale didn't trust the silence. One of the forensic techs swept a handheld thermal scanner across the far wall. A low hum vibrated beneath their feet, steady, mechanical, and definitely not part of any recycling operation. The first suspicious detail emerged near the center of the room. Circular marks on the floor, subtle but precise, as if heavy crates had been rotated in the same place over and over. A second agent noticed faint grooves leading toward a rusted storage rack. The grooves weren't natural wear. They were tracks, like something had been moved repeatedly across that exact path. When Hale pushed the rack aside, the concrete beneath shifted. A thin seam ran across the floor. A hidden door. The tech team got to work. Hydraulic tools hissed, the sound echoing off the hollow walls. As the floor panel lifted, a gust of warm air surged upward, carrying the mineral scent of deep earth and diesel fumes. Beneath the warehouse lay a tunnel carved with industrial precision, reinforced with steel ribbing and lit by low-voltage bulbs that hummed like a heartbeat. The tunnel descended farther than the flashlights could reach. No one spoke. The discovery was bigger than expected. This wasn't a small passageway used for quick movement. This was engineered infrastructure, the kind used by major transnational groups who operated like corporations rather than street-level syndicates. As Hale radioed the secondary team, a distant metallic clatter echoed through the tunnel. Something, or someone, was moving fast. Two agents descended first, weapons drawn but pointed low, trained for containment rather than confrontation. The tunnel branched after 20 feet. Fresh tire impressions pressed into the dirt, still soft, indicating recent movement. Along the wall, the agents found a discarded glove dusted with white residue. A forensic specialist collected it carefully, sealing it for later chemical testing. If the early intel was right, the tunnels were moving narcotics at a staggering scale, and this glove might become a key piece of police evidence connecting multiple trafficking routes. Farther in, the tunnel widened into a small chamber used as a loading point. There were pallets, fuel cans, and what appeared to be a ventilation system engineered to disperse fumes into a nearby drainage network. Everything was arranged with a level of discipline suggesting the operators weren't improvising. They were executing a long-running, well-funded strategy. Then they found the abandoned transport cart. Battery-powered, reinforced with steel plating and fitted with rubber treads, the cart was large enough to move crates weighing hundreds of pounds. One crate sat half open. Inside were cash bundles wrapped in plastic. Another crate held sealed cylindrical canisters that would need forensic analysis before anyone could declare their contents publicly. But the weight, packaging, and context all pointed toward one conclusion. The tunnel was actively used for smuggling large-scale shipments that bypassed traditional border points entirely. Still, something was missing. There were signs of a rushed exit. Tools left scattered. A radio still on, its battery dying. Footprints leading deeper into the tunnel system, and then suddenly stopping, overwritten by tire tracks. Hale scanned the shadows. The operational documents predicted that these tunnels could run for miles, connecting storage points, safe houses, and potentially even transportation hubs. Just as he prepared to move the team forward, the power in the bulbs flickered. A distant generator whined. Then everything went black. In the darkness, a sharp metallic slam reverberated through the tunnel. It came from behind them, from the direction of the hidden entrance they had just opened. The sound was unmistakable. The entrance had closed. But the team hadn't touched it. Hale's pulse tightened. Whoever operated this tunnel system wasn't just aware of the raid, they were monitoring every move, reacting in real time, and controlling the structure from somewhere deeper underground. And the team was now trapped in the dark with only one direction left to go. They had no idea how far the tunnel stretched, or who might be waiting at the other end. The darkness settled thick around the team, pressing in like a living weight. The faint blue emergency light above flickered again, barely strong enough to reveal the steel ribs of the tunnel. The air shifted, warmer now, untouched by the freezing storm outside. It smelled of dust, diesel, and earth that had been disturbed too recently to be part of an abandoned network. The silence carried that uneasy stillness investigators know well, the feeling that someone else was in control of the environment. Hale steadied his breathing. Panic had no place here. The team activated their shoulder lamps, beams slicing through the darkness. A thin haze of dust floated in the air as if stirred by movement not long before their arrival. The sealed entrance behind them confirmed one thing: the tunnel's operators had been monitoring the raid in real time. And they weren't going to let federal agents walk back out the way they came. The next decision was forced by necessity. They had to move deeper. As they advanced, the tunnel expanded into a second passageway reinforced with newer steel plating. Tool markings on the brackets suggested recent installation. Forensic tech Ava Ramirez brushed her gloves against the wall. She paused, examining a smear of something barely visible. Under the flashlight, it shimmered faintly. Lubricant oil mixed with fine metallic residue. Not commercial grade. Industrial grade. The type used for machinery capable of lifting heavy shipments or powering high-torque vehicles designed for underground transport. Fresh evidence, and proof that the tunnel wasn't only for smuggling but for sustained operations. Farther down, the team reached a fork. One passage carried a steady breeze, indicating an active ventilation system. The other smelled faintly of rubber and fuel. Hale signaled the group to split. Ramirez and two agents took the left passage toward the airflow, where they hoped to find the ventilation hub or a secondary outlet. Hale led the others toward the fuel scent, believing it might lead to vehicles, storage, or an exit point. The fuel-scented passage opened into a cavernous chamber barely visible under dim blue utility lights. Metal shelves lined the walls, holding maintenance tools, spare batteries, and sealed plastic containers labeled in Spanish and English. A large generator hummed in a corner, its vibration soft but steady. Beside it sat a steel workbench cluttered with maps, schematics, and a pair of headsets, one still warm from recent use. Hale swept his flashlight over the documents without touching them. Tunnel layout diagrams stretched across several pages, each marked with red arrows and coded symbols. The network was far larger than expected. Several offshoots connected to abandoned storm drains, a shuttered freight line, and even a former chemical plant site the city assumed had been fully decommissioned. It wasn't a tunnel, it was an underground highway. This wasn't improvised cartel activity. This was engineered infrastructure built by people who understood construction, ventilation, and surveillance. The kind of operation that could move contraband at a volume sophisticated enough to evade traditional enforcement methods. A fully functional, multi-branch smuggling route beneath a major American city. Back at the fork, Ramirez's team discovered something different. Their passage led to a long, reinforced room with walls lined in heavy plastic sheeting. Vent pipes ran overhead like arteries, channeling air from deep within the earth. On the ground were footprints, distinct, consistent, and recent. The prints didn't scatter. They moved in a straight line toward the far end of the chamber, where a metal door stood slightly ajar. Ramirez approached with caution. The door opened into a small communication hub, outfitted with radio equipment, battery packs, and a flickering monitor. Most of the screens were dark, but one still displayed grainy black and white footage. Footage of the warehouse above. Multiple angles revealed the agents' arrival, their movements, and the exact moment they discovered the hidden floor panel. Someone had installed a live surveillance system directly into the tunnel operation. More disturbing was the timestamp. The footage was only minutes old. Whoever was operating the cameras had been watching them as they entered and as the entrance sealed shut. And the most unsettling detail, one camera angle wasn't from the warehouse. It showed a different tunnel, somewhere ahead, deeper inside the network. The camera was shaking as if the operator was running. Ramirez radioed Hale. "We have live surveillance down here. Someone is still inside." Hale's response tightened the air around them. "How far from your position?" "Judging by the layout on the screen, maybe 300-400 meters. It's an active feed." Before she could continue, the monitor flickered, distorting the image. A shadow moved across the screen. Then another. The feed cut to static. Hale regrouped the team. Their paths converged at a grated steel walkway leading into yet another section of the tunnel network. The floor trembled slightly beneath their feet as they approached, a rhythmic vibration that came and went like the pulse of machinery cycling on a timer. The walkway ended at a reinforced checkpoint door, thicker than anything they'd seen so far. Hale pushed against it. It shifted only slightly, then stopped. A locking mechanism clicked from the other side, metal grinding against metal. Someone was closing it. Ramirez's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're still ahead of us. They know we're coming." Hale examined the hinge bolts, searching for weaknesses. As he traced the metal with his flashlight, he noticed something odd: heat radiating from the edges of the door. Not natural heat. Engine heat. Behind the door, something large was powering up. A low mechanical whine grew louder, vibrating through the metal plate. The sound was unmistakable. A vehicle, industrial, electric, and built for hauling heavy cargo, was starting to move. Then came the realization that forced a chill through the entire team. The tunnel wasn't just a smuggling route. It was an escape route. And the operators were already using it. Hale stepped back, trying to hear through the rising mechanical hum. The vehicle was accelerating away, which meant the team had only seconds to decide whether to pursue blindly into a massive underground system, or risk losing the only suspects who could reveal how deep the operation truly went. The vibration from the other side of the checkpoint door grew stronger, rattling dust from the steel beams overhead. The low electric whine deepened into a steady mechanical pulse, a sound unmistakably linked to heavy transport machinery accelerating down a long tunnel. Every second that passed meant increasing distance between the agents and whoever had been operating the underground network. Hale's jaw tightened. Losing them now could fracture the entire investigation. He signaled Ramirez and two agents to brace the side panels. The door was industrial grade, reinforced with internal locking bars. No brute force would open it. But Hale noticed something else: a thin trail of warm air seeping through the lower seam. It wasn't just heat from an engine. It carried the scent of exhaust and dust blown by movement, meaning the operators had not only fled, they had triggered a ventilation shift to mask their direction. A deliberate misdirection tactic. The team followed the airflow. It led upward into a secondary shaft carved at a sharper incline, almost hidden behind a panel of rusted steel. It looked old, but the dust patterns on the ground suggested it had been used recently. Tire impressions overlapped footprints leading into the incline. Not the large tires of heavy machinery, these were narrow, precise, possibly from a compact vehicle designed for stability in narrow tunnels. As they climbed the shaft, the air temperature rose. The walls shifted from reinforced metal to raw earth packed with support beams. It was tighter, more claustrophobic. Flashlight beams caught loose soil trickling from the ceiling, suggesting recent disturbance. The incline ended at an open space where the ground bore deep skid marks. A small transport cart, similar to the abandoned one earlier but newer, rested on its side. Its battery pack was warm. And inside the cart's open storage compartment lay a torn piece of fabric, caught on a bolt. A small patch of synthetic fiber with a numeric code stitched in red along the edge. Ramirez photographed it immediately, analyzing the fibers with a portable scanner. The results appeared on her handheld display. Synthetic uniform material, not civilian clothing. The numeric code suggested manufacturing or distribution tagging, possibly linked to a commercial supplier. This wasn't a cartel uniform. It looked closer to technical workwear. Someone inside this operation had training, engineering, logistics, or industrial maintenance. And they'd been close enough to the fleeing suspects to lose part of their uniform while escaping. The chamber branched into 3 new tunnels. Each steamed faintly as warm air pushed through, creating a clouded haze that made it impossible to tell which path the suspects took. Hale crouched near the center, studying the dirt. Footprints blurred. Tire tracks overlapped. Someone had intentionally dragged a metal tool across the ground, scraping parallel grooves meant to distort any readable pattern. The fleeing operators were destroying evidence as they moved. But not perfectly. Near the third branch, Hale spotted something half buried in loose soil, a small rectangular device crushed underfoot. When Ramirez lifted it carefully, dust spilled from its casing. Inside were the charred remnants of a GPS module. Someone had stepped on it while running. Possibly dropped it accidentally. Possibly smashed it to prevent tracking. Either scenario meant the team was closing in. Suddenly, a faint echo traveled through the third tunnel. Not machinery this time. A soft metallic clang, rhythmic, repeating, as if a chain or tool swung gently from motion or wind. The agents froze. Hale raised a fist silently. The tunnel air shifted, carrying another sound, a distant voice. Muffled. Urgent. Almost like someone calling instructions. The team advanced. The tunnel widened and the temperature dropped again, leading into a long corridor where blue utility lights flickered sporadically. The deeper they moved, the more the environment changed. The engineered structure gave way to rougher cuts, as if this section had been excavated quickly or covertly. Pipes ran haphazardly overhead. Power cables snaked along the walls. Water dripped from cracked joints, splashing softly onto the dirt floor. The metallic clanging grew louder. It led them into a vast underground chamber, the largest yet. Blue lights stretched across a ceiling supported by old concrete pillars. Rusted metal scaffolds rose in uneven stacks. Abandoned crates sat half open, some filled with tools, others with nondescript packaging materials. But what caught their attention was the track laid through the center of the chamber. A narrow rail-like pathway. Fresh scrape marks showed a vehicle had sped along it minutes earlier. Then Ramirez noticed something else, a security panel embedded in one of the pillars. The casing was cracked, but its screen flickered faintly. Hale brushed off the dust. A digital map appeared, grainy, low-res but active. The blinking red indicator showed a moving object deeper in the tunnel network. It wasn't static. It was live tracking. Someone, possibly unknowingly, had left a location transmitter online. The red dot moved rapidly along a corridor branching from the chamber's far end. Hale felt the moment shift. The confusion, the overlapping tracks, the misdirection, all cleared. This was the first solid lead on the suspect's direction since entering the tunnel. The team finally had a target to pursue. But just as they prepared to follow, the chamber lighting flickered violently. Lights snapped off one by one, plunging the space into near darkness. A low warning hum echoed through the ceiling. Then, with a deep tremor, a metal gate slammed shut behind them, sealing the way they had come. Ramirez spun toward the sound. They're locking down sections of the tunnel. Hale focused his flashlight beam toward the far exit, the direction of the red tracking signal. The gate behind them had sealed. The lights were failing. And someone deeper in the tunnel was still moving fast. The chase had narrowed to a single path. But they were no longer just pursuing suspects. They were walking into a section of the tunnel network the fleeing operators clearly didn't want anyone to reach. And the reasons for that were becoming more unsettling with every step they took. The tunnel air had grown colder and heavier, almost as if the system itself was holding its breath. Hale signaled the team to slow. Every step echoed, mingling with the distant hum of machinery. The red dot on the portable scanner shifted ahead through the maze of narrow corridors. For the first time, the agents sensed the operators not as shadows, but as a calculated intelligence controlling the tunnels. The passage narrowed, forcing single-file movement. Blue emergency lights flickered over scratches and scuff marks along the walls. Hale's flashlight caught discarded tools, a crowbar, a pry bar, and a set of industrial gloves. Ramirez noted the fiber patterns. This wasn't street-level crime. These were trained hands, moving strategically to avoid leaving evidence. At a junction, the tunnel opened into a chamber acting as a secondary hub. Tables were strewn with schematics and partially burned ledgers. A faint chemical scent lingered. Ramirez scanned a ledger, revealing coded shipment logs matching dates and locations of recent seizures. The scale was staggering, a multi-million-dollar operation far beyond initial estimates. The walls revealed embedded cameras wired into a makeshift surveillance system. Someone had been documenting the agent's movements. Hale's pulse quickened. Whoever installed this had intimate knowledge of law enforcement tactics, predicting movements and reactions. The level of criminal psychology was chilling. The team advanced. The floor shifted from dirt to polished concrete. Ventilation ducts masked sound while maintaining airflow. Every detail spoke of deliberate engineering. The scanner beeped sharply. A vehicle moved from a side corridor, slow and deliberate, almost as if the operators were luring the agents. Hale signaled silence. The tension was palpable. The vehicle stopped. From above, stairs creaked as a figure emerged in a dark uniform matching the earlier torn fabric. The team froze. The suspect moved deliberately, surveying the chamber, aware of blind spots, orchestrating the network. Hale signaled for careful convergence. But the operator accessed a panel, triggering a steel gate that descended, narrowing the agent's path, a deliberate trap. Hale weighed the options. Pursue and risk entrapment or regroup. The scanner's red dot shifted deeper. The operators weren't just escaping, they were guiding the investigation, manipulating paths. Law enforcement pursuit had become a psychological game. Then a voice echoed through a ventilation duct, "You're in over your heads." Calm, controlled, taunting, the operators were confident, studying the agents. The stakes were higher. Capture alone wasn't the goal. The team found a hand-drawn diagram pinned to a wall, showing exit routes, ventilation flows, and decoy corridors. Obfuscation layers delayed pursuit and protected assets. Ramirez noted forensic potential. Handwriting and construction materials could identify a high-level operator. The corridor ended at a platform overlooking a lower chamber. Crates sat stacked beside the tracks. Hale gestured to inspect them. Cash bundles, sealed containers, coated crates. The operation was no longer local. It was a multi-branch criminal network beneath the city. Hale realized a breakthrough was near. Evidence, tracks, and surveillance converged on the coordinator. The agents were closing in, but the network remained one step ahead, testing law enforcement at every move. As they prepared to descend, a metallic clang echoed, blue light flickered, shadows stretched unnaturally, and the sound of rapid movement suggested operators shifting equipment or preparing escape. Hale's pulse tightened. The core of the network was near, but every step deeper increased risk. In the silence, broken only by distant dripping water and electrical hum, it became clear. The operators knew the agents were coming and had set an environment where hunter and hunted could blur at any moment. The air in the lower chamber was thick, electric with anticipation. Hale motioned the team forward, every movement calculated, every footstep deliberate. Blue-tinted emergency lights cast long shadows across the stacked crates, rail tracks, and steel supports, creating a surreal, almost cinematic tableau. The scale of the operation lay before them, each crate, cable, and conduit a piece of a vast underground puzzle. The investigation had finally brought them to the heart of the network. The red dot on the portable scanner oscillated slightly, movement directly ahead. Hale signaled for silence as they descended the platform, stepping onto the dusty floor. The crates lining the chamber revealed more than just smuggling materials. There were financial ledgers, coded shipping manifests, and sealed containers, all meticulously organized. Each piece of evidence painted a chilling portrait. This wasn't a street-level cartel. This was a transnational, corporate-style operation, fully optimized to evade law enforcement and maintain secrecy. As they moved toward the scanner's signal, a faint metallic echo resonated through the chamber. The sound wasn't machinery, it was deliberate, human, and purposeful. Hale's instincts sharpened. Someone was here, monitoring, directing, controlling. The team split briefly, flanking the nearest exits while keeping sight of the crate stacks. The operators had not abandoned this section. They were baiting the agents into the core of the network. Ramirez's scanner pulsed rapidly. Hale, movement just past the eastern corridor. "I see a silhouette," she whispered. The figure was clad in dark industrial clothing, precise and methodical, moving along the polished concrete toward a hidden hatch. The numeric code stitched into the earlier recovered fabric now made sense. It identified the operator as a high-level coordinator. Hale's pulse quickened. This was the key suspect, the architect behind months of smuggling, evasion, and manipulation. The team advanced slowly, weapons raised but ready to subdue rather than engage lethally. The suspect stopped abruptly, reaching into a small console embedded in the wall. Blue lights flickered as a soft hum surged through the chamber. Hale realized immediately, the operator was triggering a secondary mechanism, likely to obscure or destroy evidence. Before they could react, the floor beneath the suspect shifted slightly, revealing a concealed compartment containing additional crates and a hidden vehicle. The operator attempted to move the vehicle, but Hale and his team closed the distance. Within moments, the suspect was cornered, trapped between the approaching agents and the rail tracks. "Freeze! Federal agents!" Hale commanded. The operator raised hands slowly, calculating, aware that resistance was futile. Ramirez quickly scanned the area, confirming that no further hidden mechanisms could create an escape route. The operation, meticulous and extensive, had reached its end. As the suspect was restrained, Hale examined the crates and ledgers surrounding them. The records confirmed the scale. Millions of dollars moved through these tunnels, dozens of high-volume shipments coordinated, multiple escape and surveillance routes mapped and executed flawlessly. The arrest was a turning point. Law enforcement had penetrated a network that had operated invisibly beneath a major U.S. city, now frozen in blue-lit silence. Agents continued cataloging the evidence, moving through the chamber systematically. Blue emergency lights reflected off crates, steel beams, and polished concrete, capturing a sense of order imposed after chaos. The network's depth and sophistication became clear. Tunnels leading to hidden ventilation shafts, abandoned industrial sites, and secret exits. Every discovery reinforced the reality. This was a criminal organization whose operations rivaled corporate logistics, operating under the city's very streets. As the team prepared to exit, a final, chilling detail emerged. A small, unmarked corridor at the far end of the chamber led deeper, untouched. No footprints, no dust disturbance, no evidence of the operators using it yet. Hale paused, realizing that while the network's core had been exposed, part of it remained hidden, possibly still active. The unresolved extension of the tunnels hinted at other operators or future activity. An open question, a shadow beneath the city that law enforcement had yet to uncover. Hale radioed command. "We've secured the primary suspect and key evidence. Full operation cataloged. But there may be more underground. This isn't over." The team moved toward the stairwell leading up, leaving the blue-lit chamber behind. As they ascended, the hum of machinery faded, replaced by the quiet drip of water and the echo of their footsteps. Above ground, snow had begun to melt, streets returning to a deceptive calm. The high-profile case had reached its dramatic conclusion, yet the network's reach reminded them that true crime rarely has a full ending. If this case shook you, the next one will hit even harder. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Hale's thought lingered as the agents emerged into daylight, the city unaware of the labyrinth beneath its streets. A network of crime, control, and calculated escape, exposed but not entirely conquered. The operation had ended, but the story of the Chicago tunnels, the cartel, and the precision-engineered smuggling routes would haunt investigators, citizens, and viewers alike for years to come. The city above moved on, unaware of how close it had come to the unseen chaos beneath.